Raiders v Bulldogs, Friday at Suncorp Stadium. Raiders, the return of Jordan Rapana from injury probably kills off any chance Chevy Stewart had of seeing more NRL action anytime soon. Over 18% of teams jumped on the rookie WFB when he was named to take over at the back in round 6, but got just 3 games out of him and a measly $34,000 in price rises. Ethan Strange, who is the game's second most selected player, is probably done making money for now, but he could be a nice option to hold over the major bye rounds anyway, given he provides cover at both HLF and centre. Bulldogs, Jman Salmon keeps his starting back row job for the time being, with Jacob Preston on the bench. After a slow start to the season, Sam Hughes has ended up being a decent money maker. He's up to $429,000 but will probably stop making money after this week, with his break-even creeping up. Josh Curran hasn't been able to reach elite scores this season and is on the bench in round 11. Sea Eagles v Broncos, Friday at Suncorp Stadium. Sea Eagles, the move of Tulutau Kula, CTR/WFB, $458,000, to fullback is intriguing, with Tom Trajevic set to sit out the next 2 months injured. Kula has a big appetite for running meters as it is, and a move to a high-involvement position could see his scoring shoot up too. Carl Lawton gets another run at hooker with no sign of Lachlan Croker in the squad. HLF Luke Brooks had his first score over 30 since round 5 last week, with a 65 rewarding the 5% of teams who still have him. Broncos, almost a quarter of all teams are stuck with preseason favourite Brendan Piera, who is performing terribly in fantasy and managed just 8 points last week in a 52-minute stint, with 6 missed tackles for -12 points not helping. At $361,000 he's not worth selling, so just hold him and keep your fingers crossed it improves. Jock Madden returns from injury at halfback, and while he's set for a long run there's not really any value in him because he's already appropriately priced for his scores at $526,000. Tyson Smoothie, who averages 30.3 this season, gets a go in the number 9 jersey with Billy Walters out injured. Titans v Knights, Saturday at Suncorp Stadium. Titans, a glut of injuries in last week's win over the Cowboys means it's a pieced together Titans side for Magic Round. From a fantasy perspective, the big loss is Edge Brimson, groin, who has averaged 61.3 through his last 3 games. David Fifito is in devastating form right now but currently still sits in under 6% of teams. Knights, a real worry for Kite Pierce-Paul, ETG, $650,000. Owners, with the Englishman named on the bench after moving back the last week and having his minutes halved to 40, resulting in a score of 32. It's good news though for Dylan Lucas, who starts in his place and has pod potential with just 1% owning him right now. Jack Cogger returns to the halves and should have a spot for the long term now, with Tyson Gamble set for a lengthy spell out with a foot injury. Sharks v Roosters, Saturday at Suncorp Stadium. Sharks, the naming of Nicho Hynes at halfback is a massive boost for coaches grappling with HLF's crisis this week. There's a chance the Sharks rest him again if they aren't confident his calf is good to go, so make sure you have an auto emergency lined up and a good vice captain if you're planning to give him the C in round 11. A 62 last week has set Daniel Atkinson up with a -11 break-even, but with Braden Trindle named in the reserves and a chance to return and take his place at 5/8, he's a stay away if you don't already have him. Roosters, Brandon Smith makes his return after a week off with injury, which will likely have an impact on Connor Watson's minutes and score this Saturday. A 78 last week means Angus Crichton's last 3-game average is bordering on 90 points, putting him second only to Nicho Hynes in terms of being the form player in fantasy right now. If you take away his -12 from the round 5 game in which he was sent off, Dom Young, WFB, $556,000, has just 1 score under 40 all season. Rabbitohs v Cowboys, Saturday at Suncorp Stadium. Rabbitohs, Alex Johnston returns from injury in the backline, but Jack Whiten remains at centre, which means another run looms for $241,000. HLF Deontay Madavi Moel has taken on an elevated role since Ben Hornby took over as coach and is exceeding his current price tag of $365,000, with consecutive scores in the 40s. Cowboys, if you haven't done so already, it's time to sell EDGQ like Fufina Fuyuiaki after he was replaced in the run onside by Hylam Luki and scored just 23 last week, leaving him with a break-even of 35, which he's highly unlikely to reach off the bench in round 11. Scott Drinkwater, WFB, $670,000, comes off a season-worst 28 and now has a break-even of 65. Which means he's likely to drop in value after this weekend for those interested in making a move for the North Queensland number 1. Warriors v Panthers, Sunday at Suncorp Stadium. Warriors, with Sean Johnson sidelined by a pectoral injury, Chance Nickel-Klokstad moves from fullback into the halves to partner Mayor Martin. That move is unlikely to help his scores at all, with most of CNK's points coming from big run meter stats which simply won't be available at 5/8. Ali Leota, WFB, $300,000, comes in at centre and could get a decent run there with Roger Tuivasa-Sheck set to miss several weeks with a hamstring injury, while Tane Tuopiki, who averaged 40 points across 3 games earlier in the season, gets another run at fullback. Panthers, Jack Cole, HLF, $230,000, gets a shot at partnering Jeremy Uai in the halves with both Nathan Cleary and Brad Schneider out injured. Cole isn't a cash cow contender at this stage unless Schneider ends up being out long-term, in which case he definitely becomes a likely money maker. Scott Sorensen has been included in the wider squad and could make his return from a knee injury, which would signal an end to Luke Garner's nice run of scoring. Isaac Tago returns from suspension in the centres. Storm v Eels, Sunday at Suncorp Stadium. Storm, Swafualogo registered a modest 19 in his first game, taking over from the injured Ryan Papenhuisen at fullback, and is likely to continue being a low-floor, high-ceiling option due to his lack of big running stats. He's very capable of racking up dynamic stats in attack, which will likely happen sooner rather than later, so if you have him, just be patient and try to loop him where possible. Iliesa Katoa had 63 last week and is now a keeper at EDG, albeit without the ability to hit regular monster scores like a David Fifita or Angus Crichton. Eels, no sign of Mitch Moses, who many coaches had hoped would make his return from injury this week and become a possible replacement for Nathan Cleary or Sean Johnson, but there is a change in the halves with Ethan Sanders punted in favour of Dejonas. Blaise Talagi was excellent in a fantasy context last week as a fullback, hitting 57 to set himself up to make some money in coming weeks while Clint Gutherson is out injured.